Yo,
Hey.
what's good? It's your main man, JD.
I'm just Katie. I don't have a cool intro, I
Yeah,
guess.
you gotta get the energy up when you do your intro. Your intro needs to be hyped.
I'm the main lady, Katie.
Oh, main lady.
You said main man. I don't know.
Well, I'm glad you guys are watching.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, tonight we got some MrBallen videos to react to. For whatever reason, these videos do very well on our channel and lead to a lot of stuff. So
apparently you like them.
Yeah, I guess you like them.
I mean, we enjoy them too, but
maybe you like us, but you probably like those videos a little bit better. So than us. But for whatever reason, I'm glad you're here. I'm glad you're hanging out with us. We're gonna be on for maybe a little more than an hour tonight. We got 2 videos to react to, and then we're gonna come in, hit you real hard,
not physically.
bounce back out.
We don't hurt.
No, we don't hurt. We don't hurt. Metaphorically speaking, we're gonna hit you in your box real quick, and
we're gonna leave your box alone too. I don't know what he's after, but I apologize, and there is no violence.
Yeah. No violence. Just balling tonight.
Be kind.
Yeah.
Hold on. Be kind. I didn't know which way it went. I was in the... Anywho.
Any hoozles.
You always want to do these late night videos. I know it's not late, but getting dark so early, it feels like it's 11 o'clock.
Anything past 6:30 is late for Katie, so...
I have long days.
Okay.
But I like hanging out with you guys. And my husband.
Yeah. So yeah, if you are watching right now, drop a comment. Let us know that you're out there. We're gonna do what we're sipping on tonight. I got a little blue-green drink. Got a little extra something in it. Started off as blue, then I had some brown to it, and then it sounded good. Yeah, I added something else to it, and now it's pretty good.
I literally just have water in a pretty green glass. That's
nice.
It.
So if you're watching, let us know what you're sipping on. But yeah, we're gonna chill out for maybe another 2 or 3 minutes, and then get started with the festivities for the night. I'll let you guys know what my schedule is for the rest of the week. On Sunday at 7 p.m., I will be doing a watch party for Dune Prophecy. Had a decent turnout for the first one. I hope we get a few more folks around next time.
He will be doing that
a little bit more
by himself, but I will join in the chat.
Oh, wow.
To support you. I did last time. It was a good time.
Yeah. It was a something.
I love you. I'm just not watching Dune, so I don't really have much input. So instead of me sitting here just nodding and not knowing what's happening, I figured let the man take it.
Oh, okay.
You enjoy it. Yeah.
I do. Actually, like, if I had to be honest about that first episode, it was not all that entertaining. I mean, it was okay. I hope that it's gonna like turn up a little bit more and give us a little bit more of the things that the movies offer. But
was it better than the first episode of Agatha?
Or
was it just about as...
First episode of Agatha was decent, and then it like really tailed off after that.
That's true.
Yeah, it was okay, but I'm expecting more. I hope that we get a little bit more plot. And I mean, like, the story on that show can be kind of confusing, so that doesn't help things. It's kind of dense. That doesn't help things. And the characters were kind of dull. So
you're really selling this.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna watch it.
I'm sure I'm gonna watch it now.
I learned with Agatha that you got to give these things a little bit of room to breathe. So I'm gonna give it some room.
Got to
see
simmer.
how it goes. Yeah,
gotta get the pot boiling a little bit.
Yeah, gotta let it bubble up a little bit. But yeah, I really hope that it gets better. But anyway, gonna be streaming that on Sunday at 7 p.m. And then next week is Thanksgiving week. So yeah, I think at some point next week we're gonna do some kind of random special stream.
You want to watch us eat our food?
Oh yeah, hang out with us, like
ASMR eating turkey.
Oh yeah. We should figure out some kind of like fun stream to do. Even if nobody watches, we can have something fun to do.
We can all make hand turkeys. Get your paper.
Hand turkeys?
Get your paper and pencil.
Oh, God. That's so lame. So lame.
Well, but everybody can do that.
I'm not an artist, so I don't know if I can do it.
I literally taught my preschoolers how. You're good.
Yeah, but
do you have hands? Sold. Oh, wipers.
But anyway, so yeah, that's what our plan is for next week. There'll be some sort of stream. There will be at least 2 shorts and 1 long form VOD dropping every day, as we did this week.
Your mom will be in town.
Yeah, might be able to get her on a stream too.
She's a hoot. We love her.
That'd be fun.
That would be really funny.
But yeah. So that's the plan. We'll have to figure out something that'll get a good reaction out of her. But anyway, that's not what you're here for. You are here for some good old-fashioned MrBallen reaction time.
Let's do it.
So yeah, let's get this started. We have our first video is entitled "This Story May Save Your Life." It's his newest video. So we will watch and react to that one. But as always, we do a little bit of an intro. So let's get that done and out the way. On this episode of Watch Stuff With Us, more MrBallen. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Watch Stuff With Us. I'm JD.
I'm Katie.
Please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment below, please and thank you.
Share with your friends, your family, the mailman,
everyone. It helps our channel. We have been growing pretty well over the last 2 months that we've been back doing this on a regular basis, so we want to keep that going.
It's been fun,
and in order to keep it going, we're going to jump into some MrBallen videos. So
let's do it. Sync
story. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit play. Like I said, this video is entitled "This Story May Save Your Life." So let's see if it's really something that will truly save our lives.
I always love his look. I feel like next time we do this, I need to just break out like a flannel and a backwards cap. And
you really should.
Really
should. We should dress like him.
Mm-hmm.
The story is a stark reminder as to why you should always read the fine print. But before we get into today's story, if you're a fan of the strange, dark, and mysterious delivered in story format, on the morning of August 7th, 1981, a 34-year-old wildlife photographer named Carl McCunn stood on the edge of a lake in the Alaskan wilderness and chucked a box of ammunition into the water. The splash it made was surprisingly loud in the total silence that surrounded him. Carl was on the last day of a 5-month-long solo camping trip in a very remote area of northern Alaska that was actually inside the Arctic Circle. A plane had dropped him off here in early spring, and he had set up his tent by this lake, which was surrounded
like a beautiful area, but also
forest
scary.
Huge snowy mountains.
Looks like Yellowjack.
This 5-month trip, Carl had not seen or spoken to another person the entire time. There were no phones, no roads, no rangers, no people around for at least 100 miles. I mean, this is true isolation. Carl looked up into the sky and listened carefully for the low roar of the plane that was supposed to pick him up today. But as he listened, he couldn't hear anything. But this didn't worry Carl, because he actually had only arranged for his pickup date, not the pickup time. So it was just at some point on this day he was going to get picked up. He didn't know exactly when. And so as he anxiously waited, he just kind of puttered around his campsite and continued to pack up his things. And as Carl did this, he remembered that the type of plane that was going to be picking him up today, it was his buddy Rory's plane, it was really small. And there was a chance that he couldn't actually fit all of his belongings on the plane. And so in anticipation of this, he had identified that he didn't need all of his ammo. And so that's why he was chucking his ammo into the lake, basically in preparation for pickup. Just then, a breeze kicked up, and so Carl zipped his parka up to his chin. This was actually the so-called warm season in the Arctic Circle, but warm in the Arctic Circle meant still near freezing temperatures at night. And as much as Carl loved being out in the wilderness, doing these solo camping trips out in the middle of nowhere, he really was excited to get back to his home in Anchorage, Alaska, and see his friends and call his dad and, be in a nice warm house for once. Carl was about to chuck his 6th and final box of ammunition into the lake when he heard the loud sound of a wolf howling on the other side of the lake. And it made him stop for a second, and he decided that, maybe until the plane gets here, I'll hold on to at least 1 box of ammunition. So he stuck this final box into his bag, picked it up, and then he walked along.
Why would you bring so much ammo, right, and then just throw it away? Like, that makes no sense. Like, why would you throw it in a lake? like you said, either leave it on the side or something, or not bring that much to begin with.
Why do you have so much? Are you trying to like
Right.
kill a moose and then bring that on the plane? Because then, yeah, you won't
That's
have
not
room
gonna
for all
fit
your
either.
ammo.
So
Like,
yeah, I don't know what his idea and his plan was, but yeah, whatever it is, it's not a good plan.
No.
Along the shoreline up to where he had rigged a net to catch some fish. And when he got to the net, he saw he had caught 2 trout. And so he scooped the fish out, he went back to his campsite, he made a fire, cooked the fish, and as he sat down to eat them, he just kept looking up to the sky and listening, hoping for this plane to arrive soon. When he was done eating, Carl made a quick entry into his diary, kind of detailing the last day at camp, and then he finished packing up all his stuff, and he brought it all down to the waterline, ready to be picked up, and then he sat on his trunk, again, just kind of waiting for his friend to show up. And by this time, it was about mid-afternoon, and still no sign of the plane. But nonetheless, Carl sat there kind of taking in the scene, this beautiful lake and nature. I mean, this is the last time he's going to be here, and so he's trying to appreciate it. After all, this had been a really successful photography trip. He had shot 500 rolls of film that he knew he could sell, and that would make enough money that he'd be able to do this again the following year. And so as Carl sat there, taking in the scene and daydreaming about next year's trip, he noticed the sun was beginning to set. And when he noticed this was kind of like the first time that Carl actually became worried. This far north, the sun stayed out for nearly 20 hours a day in the summer. And so if the sun was setting right now, that meant it had to be near midnight. And so his friend Rory, who was supposed to pick him up today, at some point today, well,
not a very good friend, I feel.
Carl knew his friend had officially missed the date. And Carl had no way of contacting him to see what had happened or when he would be here. And so as dusk fell, and still there was no sign of Rory.
So this video is entitled, "This Can Save Your Life." Having a phone is what I think the crux of this is going to be. Like, if you're going to be out in the middle of the Arctic Circle, you need to have a satellite phone so that if something goes wrong, you can contact somebody somehow, some
have
way.
Some flares.
Something.
Don't waste all your ammo into the
this
lake.
Is literally turning into a Yellow Jacket situation, but he's alone.
Yeah. Instead of plane crashing, there's just no plane.
Right. Like, what? I don't know. Why would anybody do that? Give me a theory in the comments below. Why would somebody go in a desolate, isolated place and not bring some form of communication with them? Or maybe in this video, MrBallen is holding off and he's going to share with us that he had something to communicate with someone with. But we'll see.
This just reminds me of Naked and Afraid, but
yeah,
with more clothes and
500
more
rolls
objects.
of film.
Yeah, but still not the best thinking.
Worthless film at this point.
Throw that in the
bullets,
lake.
right? And bullets that you threw in the lake.
There was no sign of Rory. Carl continued to get more and more anxious, and finally he had to reset up his tent, and he crawled inside, got in a sleeping bag, and went to sleep praying that his friend would be there the next day. The next day, Carl got up early and packed up his stuff and waited by the shoreline for his friend, but all day he waited, and the plane still never came. Carl tried to convince himself that, maybe his friend got mixed up on the dates, or, maybe something came up that's delayed him a couple of days.
Maybe he was a week off.
He'll be here. But then another day came and went, and then another, and still no plane. And it was around this time that Carl remembered something that made him feel sick to his stomach. On the night 6 months earlier, when he and Rory had discussed pickup plans, Carl remembered that night had been filled with drinking. I mean, these guys were just laughing and having a good time.
Rory was drunk.
At some point, as the beers were flowing, Carl had asked Rory, "Hey, can you pick me up on August 7th at the end of my trip?"
That's the best
and
timing.
Rory had said, "Yeah, I can probably do that." But Rory had also said that he would have to check his schedule first before he could 100% commit to this. And Carl, in his excitement,
You gotta be kidding me.
Okay. Let's
all that had just for
you speak. You go ahead. I'm gonna take a drink because I need a drink at this point after hearing this.
I just have one word. Idiots.
Why would you do something like this without having the dates solidified? Like 100% solidified.
You have no backup plan.
Right.
You have no communication.
Right.
Your friend did not commit to picking you up. You are stuck.
And you're
here.
You're relying on this friend who you were drinking with or hanging out with. Whatever. That's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But
Apparently, they didn't text about it.
Right.
Write it down.
This is the only person
put it in a calendar.
This is the only person who seems to know this. So if that person were to die for whatever reason, you're just stuck.
Yep.
Come on, man. Come on.
Can't with
this video will save your life. Yeah, be not an idiot. Will definitely save your life.
Keep a few brain cells.
At least 2. The one that would tell you to tell someone else and to bring a phone. That's all you need. And maybe not throw away your bullets.
Now you're really going to need them if you're stranded there for who knows how long.
100% commit to this. And Carl, in his excitement about going on this trip and getting ready for it and all that, had just forgotten to follow up with Rory and make absolutely sure he could pick him up. And so now Carl was realizing that Rory wasn't delayed or mixed up about the dates. Rory wasn't coming. And Carl knew there was 0 chance of another plane just happening to fly over the area and that plane picking him up. I mean, for the entire summer Carl had been out here, he had literally not seen any planes. His best hope was that his dad or maybe one of his friends would report him missing. But he knew that was unlikely, and it actually was his own doing. Carl traveled constantly and almost never told people where he was going or when he'd be back.
This guy is so dumb.
This dude is just stupid.
This isn't his first go around with this.
This isn't his first time being stupid. He's a habitual stupid person.
He travels often and doesn't tell people where he's going. Good job, buddy.
Come on.
You get 2 thumbs up for that one.
Come on. Come on. Like, this is a situation where almost whatever happens to him, he pretty much deserves
Karma.
It at this point. Like,
You messed up.
AA Ron.
Don't mess up, AA Ron.
Yeah, I don't know. Let's see. Maybe something else will.
I don't know how this is going to get any better.
Yeah, maybe something else will
Seems like he had one friend and he relied on that person.
And on one trip recently, Carl had gone out and missed his return date, and his dad had been concerned about him, and so called the police. And when Carl had come back and realized what his dad did, he told his dad to never do that again. Never
be concerned about me, Dad. I know I'm going to a remote location, not telling anybody where I'm going, and I'm supposed to return on this date, but if I don't return, please don't send help.
Are we going to start keeping tabs on how many stupid things this guy has done so far? Shall we count the ways? Okay, so let's go through it. He got rid of his ammo, almost all of it. He decided to go on this trip in the first place and spent an entire summer in an isolated area away from people and civilization. Didn't bring a phone. What else am I missing? Did not confirm the dates for pickup with the only person who knew he was going on this trip. This isn't the first time this has happened. Mm-hmm. He told his father not to send the police looking for him if he should be delayed on his return.
So you're setting yourself up to just have nobody look for you.
Yeah, there's nothing here. Okay, so I'm guessing this video is going to end with this dude just being bones.
At least he had 500 rolls of photos.
Yes. I wonder what the photos are. Were they worth it while you're sitting there?
Not if you can't get them back to sell them or anything. What are you going to do? Just look at the negative?
Yep. This is a great one.
I remember this day.
I don't know if I'm going to make it.
I didn't have a calendar, but I remember this day. Maybe on a Sunday.
This is making me mad. Like this, normally MrBallen videos don't make me mad. This one has me like pissed off because I don't get this. If you've seen this video before, please comment. If you haven't seen this video before, please confirm that this guy is an idiot.
I really want MrBallen to be like,
video's over. Yeah,
this
guy died. It was over.
Had to share because idiots.
Yes, this video will save your life. Don't do anything he did.
And realized what his dad did, he told his dad to never do that again. Never contact authorities if I'm late. I'm fine. And all of this meant now Carl was going to face.
He looks like.
Okay.
He's amazing. He looks like Andre the Giant meets. I don't know. Richard Simmons, maybe. Like
yeah,
they had a love baby.
His hair is like laid and wavy. Like. He does look like he would go to the woods and just like never come back out. Is that a scarf? Is that a scarf? Or is he wearing a turtleneck?
It's probably an ascot.
Oh boy. Likely. Yeah, he would wear an ascot.
I only learned about that word from Scooby-Doo. Fred always has his ascot on.
Yeah, I just had to stop and talk about this guy. And rocking suspenders. I'm cool with the suspenders, but the rest of the ensemble?
I still say Andre the Giant, Richard Simmons, Love Baby.
Andre the Simmons.
A brutal
Richard the Giant.
Winter,
yes.
All by himself with limited supplies and only a single box of ammunition.
Yes, but Ice, it's really loud.
Hey, it's MrBallen here, and I am so excited to tell you all about a brand new podcast from Ballen Studios called Redacted, Declassified Mysteries, hosted by the incredible Luke LaManna. From covert government experiments to bizarre
ASMR Ice Cube.
Why? I just drank all of this.
Yeah.
You didn't hear me crunching on ice, did you? You're being rude to our consumers right now.
No, I just forgot for a minute there was a mic.
If they wanted ASMR, they would tune into an ASMR channel.
Let me know if you want me to start doing some ASMR. Here we are.
Oh boy. No. You're going to mess up our algorithm.
That stuff always like weirds me out.
YouTube's going to get confused.
Oh,
Look,
we just lost a
I know,
viewer.
we lost viewers.
Oh, no. My apologies. Come back. I'll be quiet now.
assassination attempts, Redacted dives deep into the astonishing true stories are shocking. Follow Redacted, Declassified Mysteries with Luke LaManna on the Wondery app or wherever else you get your podcasts. You can listen ad-free right now by joining Wondery Plus in the Wondery app or on Spotify.
I only have Audible.
A few weeks later, at the end of August, Carl was still stuck out in the Alaskan wilderness. By now, Carl had fully accepted that Rory was not going to come pick him up.
It's my life
and Carl
now.
was doing his best not to fixate on his stupid mistake. He figured he had two choices. The first one was that he could just stay put and hope to be rescued. This was the conservative option. He knew how to get food and also firewood near his campsite, so he wouldn't starve to death and he wouldn't freeze. But this would only keep him alive. This would not actually get him rescued. The other choice was that Carl could pack up his campsite and attempt to basically hike out of here 75 miles to the nearest city, called Fort Yukon.
You got all the time in the world.
Could get him home.
You may as well give it a try.
Became a much higher chance of death. If Carl did the hike, well, those 75 miles would be over extremely rough terrain with absolutely zero human-made trails. And so one little slip up and he could fall and get hurt or get lost. And also finding food was sort of a toss-up. And the weather at best would be brutal and at worst would be fatal. Plus, the entire region those 75 miles were in was absolutely teeming with wolves. Carl knew both of these choices were bad.
And you
but
don't have
he was
your
running out of time to make a decision. The brutal Arctic winter was fast approaching, and if Carl was going to attempt this horrible hike, he would really have to do it soon.
Carl.
And so as Carl thought about what he was going to do,
I feel like
he trudged his way over to one of his rabbit snares, and he was so happy to see he had caught a rabbit. And so he took the rabbit back to his camp and he cooked it over the fire. And as he's eating it, he's thinking, you know what, this isn't so bad. I caught food for now. I mean, this will keep me alive at least for a couple of days.
Listen,
maybe I should just stay here. But deep down, he knew the staying put option was not a real option. I mean, even though, yes, by staying here, he could keep himself from starving. He knew how to get food and all that. Well, he'd still be a sitting duck for all the predators in the area, and there were many. And remember, he only has
either way. There's predators.
But just then,
can't get past this dumb decision the dude made.
The distant whine of a small plane engine. At first, he thought he must be hearing things. Remember, he has not seen a plane at all since he got here. But sure enough, he looked up into the sky, and a second later, he saw a plane flying directly towards his camp, low and slow. Carl ran in his tent and grabbed the most brightly colored thing he could find, his sleeping bag, which was bright orange. He ran outside of his tent and began waving it back and forth.
This guy really needs
Carl
some
saw
flares.
the plane belonged to the Alaska State Troopers, and so he figured his friends must have reported him missing, and now the police were out to rescue him. A moment later, the plane passed directly over Carl's camp, so low to the ground that Carl could actually see the pilot looking back at him. Carl looked right at the pilot's eyes, and when Carl was nearly certain he had just made eye contact with the pilot, he threw his fist up in the air in excitement and jumped up and down. He couldn't believe it. He was saved. The pilot was going to land and take him home. With a big grin on his face, Carl watched as this plane, sure enough, made a big U-turn. And then Carl watched the plane make another pass over the camp, low and slow, which Carl figured meant, the pilot was looking for a place to land. And so as the pilot was doing that, Carl rushed to his campsite and began packing everything up. And as he did, he's kind of keeping an eye out, watching the plane, looking for it to land. But it didn't. The plane just kept on flying straight away from Carl's campsite until it disappeared over the horizon. For the rest of the day, Carl just stared off into the distance, hoping for this plane to come back. But it didn't. Lying inside his tent that night, Carl couldn't sleep. He was so shaken up by what had happened that day. He didn't understand, he saw the pilot. The pilot seemed like they were looking back at him. Why didn't they land? Why didn't they stop? Carl told himself that, maybe the terrain was too rough and...
All right. Now you get all, you think you're done. Your life is over pretty much. And you out here eating rabbits, trying to contemplate this 75-mile hike. Then your rescue comes, makes eye contact with you.
Sees you asking for help.
Clearly sees you.
You celebrating that you've been seen.
And
keeps
flies
going.
away.
Hopefully he radioed somebody and hey, there's a guy down here. But I feel it probably didn't happen.
I don't know.
Although I feel like he got rescued because we heard the tale. How else would we know his story?
the guy who flew over the top of him made up the first part of this story.
I think I saw a rabbit.
Yep. And he threw away bullets. I see
bullets
see
all the ammo in the water.
Yeah. What an idiot. But yeah, why would they just fly over him and not pick him? Okay. All right. Tell us, MrBallen.
Was too rough and there was no way for the pilot to land. That was possible. And so perhaps this pilot was flying back and getting another plane, maybe a float plane to land on the water. Carl didn't know, but he felt like that could be a possibility, and it sort of made him feel a little bit better. But he still couldn't relax enough to sleep.
I feel like as a pilot,
so, knowing he was just going to lay there all night,
right.
he sat up, turned on his flashlight, and began looking for something to read, just to occupy his mind. Now, at this point, Carl has been out in the wilderness all alone for months and months, and he's been stranded for weeks. He has read all of his books and all of his magazines like 1,000,000 times. He's even read his diary a dozen times. I mean, he's read everything. And so as he was looking around his tent, he was looking for literally anything else to read. And suddenly, he found something. His hunting license. It was like the one thing he had not closely read. Not an exciting thing to read, but new. It was just a little paper certificate with some rules and regulations and safety tips about hunting. And so Carl just began reading the front and he read it all the way down. And then he flipped it over and he continued reading. But then he saw something that made his heart practically stop. At first he thought maybe he misunderstood. But no, he read it over and over again and it was very clear. And so Carl looked up in shock. He suddenly understood why that pilot had left him. For weeks, Carl stayed close to his camp, just hoping and praying that somehow, some way, that plane would still come back.
Okay, so what did he read on there? What do you think he read on there? If I had to guess, it said that once you're there, you're there, and there's no available area to land, so you can only be helicoptered out.
Or if you don't call for help, we can't help you.
Yeah.
We don't pick up hitchhikers. Sorry.
Remain calm if you see us fly over. If you show any signs of needing to be rescued, we will not rescue you.
Remain calm. Help is not on the way.
Right. You're done.
Hoping and praying that somehow, some way, that plane would still come back. But it never did. And by the time Carl had actually accepted this fact that really the plane's not coming back, well, by that point, it was too late to try to hike out. So all he could do was stay put. However, the lake had frozen over, so he couldn't fish. His snares all sat empty because all the wolves and foxes got to his catches before he could. By October, Carl was getting really skinny. By November, Carl was genuinely starving. On November 26th, Thanksgiving Day, Carl laid inside of his tent and made a diary entry. There would be no Thanksgiving feast for him today. His food stores were totally gone, and the Arctic winter was getting so bad. In fact, his fingers and toes were turning black from frostbite. And he was sick all the time and constantly had chills. And as Carl wrote in his diary, he looked out the tent flap at his dying fire, knowing he had no more firewood. He knew he only had one choice left to make. He scratched a final sentence into his diary. He wrote, "They say it doesn't hurt." Then he set his diary on the floor of the tent near his rolls of film. Then he reached for his rifle and his last box of ammo. A little while later, a single shot rang out across the lake. A couple months later, in early February of 1982, Alaska State Troopers would find Carl. Carl was deceased. He had taken his own life. What Carl had only realized later.
Yeah, I wasn't. I thought he was gonna get rescued.
I thought he'd at least try that hike.
Right?
Yeah, I feel like he had other options.
Yeah, 75 miles. Hey, it's better than pulling that trigger.
He just sits there for months, not even attempting. What? Like, I mean, you could try to hike and possibly fall to your death, or you can just like end your life anyway. So why don't you give it a try?
Be a man of action, right? Well, at least not that action, maybe, but yeah, I don't give it a shot.
Man,
I mean, he
literally this guy just sounds like he was a hot mess.
Yeah, he didn't make the best choices.
No, and I hate that it came to how it did.
Yeah.
I don't like that he had to make that choice. Again, I feel like he made a bad choice.
So I'm guessing the way that they found out all of this stuff happened was because of
his diary.
Yeah.
So somebody showed up eventually.
At some point, somebody rescued him, but obviously it was too late. Yeah. The one question I need to know is why they flew over and didn't rescue him. They never said what was on the hunting license.
Not yet.
Yeah, that's the hook. Tell me, Mr. Ballen. Let me know.
Was that when he made that fist pump, when he was so excited when that pilot had flown overhead and he thought he was going to get rescued? Well, that fist pump had sealed his fate. Because, like it said on Carl's hunting license, a single arm raised in the air is the universally recognized body sign for all okay, do not wait. And so when that Alaska State Trooper pilot flew over Carl's camp, he did make eye contact with Carl. He saw him, but he also saw Carl raising his fist in the air and thought he was okay. And so he turned around and he left. If Carl...
Oh.
Carl.
He did no research before going on this adventure.
He just winged this whole trip. He just said, I'm going to go out here, stay for 2 months in the middle of nowhere, and I'm not even going to know anything about anything. And the most haphazard trip that anybody has ever made. And then, I mean, you think he was shocked before he pulled the trigger that this happened? He probably was. He was probably like, I cannot believe how this happened. Now, when we go back and look at it, we can understand completely how this happened. Totally unprepared, totally made almost every wrong move you can make, except for trying at the end. He kind of just like gave up. I get it, the giving up part, but all the setup, like we go on vacations. I go to the grocery store. I wing it sometimes. I'm not going into the middle of the wilderness and just winging it.
Right.
I think if I came to the grocery store with a list, I'm doing far better than what this guy was doing with his whole life on the line.
Dang it, forgot the crackers. Oh, well.
Darn.
At least I didn't fist pump.
Right? Note to self.
Everything's fine.
Don't be on the Jersey Shore and need rescuing because it's a wrap. Snooki, don't ever.
GTL.
JWoww, don't ever come out here.
They're never going to go in a wilderness. Are you kidding?
They would do a season of them in the wilderness.
They did the cabin.
Jersey Shore, Naked and Afraid.
Nobody wants to see that.
Somebody wants to see it. Somebody wants to see everything.
Blech. Blech.
read that hunting license a little bit sooner, he would have known to have raised 2 hands in the air as the pilot flew over for the universal sign that means, pick me up.
Oh, he just needed to celebrate with both arms instead of the one. Gosh darn it.
And now, here is a clip from the latest episode of Redacted. Enjoy.
I mean, I feel like if I would have seen the plane, I would have been like, hey, like with both arms. I wouldn't just be like, yeah. I would have been like, hey, or something, which, I don't know.
Wait a second.
How do you celebrate?
So, we've come to the end of another episode of MrBallen. How do I celebrate? I celebrate with 2 hands. You know, I might do a fist pump from time to time, but I'll never do that again after this. Because I cannot believe that this guy...
Unless everything is okay.
Yep. That's a universal sign that everything is okay. So maybe this video will save your life. Maybe if you go somewhere and your plane crashes or you are stuck out in the middle of nowhere for several days, make sure that somebody knows you're leaving first and foremost. Make sure you bring some form of communication.
Yeah.
Make sure you don't throw away your way of protecting yourself.
Do the goalpost.
And don't fist pump. Do 2 hands. 2 hands for safety.
Goalpost.
2 hands for... Yes, it's good.
And air out those pits that have been in the wilderness for months with no...
That makes...
no deodorant.
That makes no sense to me because if you watch football, this is the sign of it's good. So I would think that like this would mean like keep going. Not help me. Help me.
And why was he just doing this? He wasn't even like, hey.
But
he was
that's
just like...
that's what it was though. He was probably waving like this and saying that it's okay.
Well, there should be he was saying like,
help me, but
fist bump and a wave.
But they probably couldn't tell all those differences just by, you know, flying by from 100 feet away. I feel like the pilot
could have gone a little closer and at least yelled out like, hey man, you okay?
But then the messed up part was that he ran away to start packing up his stuff. So he probably thought that like, oh, he was saying like, oh, I'm good. Now I'm going back to whatever I was doing. Man. Andre the Giant, Richard Simmons, you messed up, bro. And you paid with your life. But you know what else doesn't pay with your life? Hitting that like button, hitting the subscribe button, and dropping a comment below. It is absolutely free. It costs you nothing but a little bit of your time and a little bit of your finger action.
And some love.
And some love for us. So please do that on your way out. Thank you for watching another episode of Watch Stuff with Us. I'm JD.
I'm Katie.
Don't pass us by. All right, guys. So yes, we just watched another episode of MrBallen. We're gonna watch one more tonight.
I hope the next one is not as frustrating.
Yeah,
that
please.
One made me a little grumpy.
I know. If you're watching right now, drop a comment.
Zero common sense.
Yes. Please leave a comment and let us know what you think. We will air your comments on the show. We see we have people watching, so if you're watching, drop a comment on here so that we can talk trash about this guy together.
Well, rest in peace, but
yeah,
come on, man.
Definitely rest in peace, but you know,
he did set himself up for this.
Yeah, he did not make the best choices.
No.
All along the way, all before, all the way during, and up until the end, he did not make the best choices. So yeah, I'm gonna get everything set up for the next video.
Ooh, different topic.
Yeah, so I think this is where I highlight right there.
This monster finally stopped by a chicken.
But yeah, so we're gonna go into another MrBallen video.
Watch stuff with us.
Yes, watch it with us. Leave a comment with us. We appreciate it when you do those types of things.
Are you excited for Thanksgiving? Do you celebrate Thanksgiving? What are you eating?
Yes.
What are you doing? Hyped for stuffing and sweet potatoes with marshmallows.
Yeah. See, stuffing, not so much.
And cranberries.
Turkey, yes.
Gotta be juicy turkey.
Yeah, I agree. And I mean, it's like a... I don't make a regular turkey. I make a
cool
sage
turkey.
Maple bacon turkey. So yeah,
he does. It is amazing.
It's definitely a good turkey. But yeah, so that's why I think I like really, really, really like it. But otherwise, I'm not the biggest like turkey fan.
I would be happy just eating the sides, to be honest.
I know a lot of people like that too. A lot of people are like that. Yeah, like the sides are the only thing that matters. Like, nah, I need the real deal. I need everything.
Okay, question for all of you though. Pumpkin pie or sweet potato pie?
There's only one correct answer to this. And it is by far sweet potato pie. Forget pumpkin pie. Pumpkin pie is gross.
It's pumpkin pie. Pumpkin pie is where it's at. Sweet potato pie just it doesn't taste the same. I mean, obviously, but I don't know. It just doesn't have that oomph. It's lacking.
It's gross.
And I love sweet potatoes, but pumpkin pie all the way.
Pumpkin pie is gross. It's a cheap knockoff of the sweet potato. All those leftover nasty pumpkins from
more expensive.
Halloween. They taste like trash. There you have it. And those people who say that they taste the same, there's something wrong with you.
Okay, but a sweet potato grows under the ground in the dirt, and a pumpkin grows above ground. So at least
sweet potatoes are more connected with the earth because they are from it. They come up from the earth.
And get your dirt pie.
Dirt pie.
I'm not really hating on it though. It's good. Yeah, if I didn't have pumpkin, I would still eat the sweet potato. But
I'm not like that though. Like
I know you would refuse
pumpkin ever.
No.
Like, and I've tried, and I think it's just because I've tried pumpkin pie so many times, and I'm expecting it to taste like sweet potato pie, and it doesn't. So that, I think that's
where I'm at now that I've tried the sweet potato pie. I'm like, what is this? This is not the same.
But you know what I actually want to make?
Green beans.
No.
With bacon.
I actually want to make some type of apple pie or apple cobbler or something like that.
Apple crisp with a little cream cheese.
See, and I don't like that part. See, and then you make an apple crisp. I said pie. The best part of the pie is the crust. That's why you got to do like double crust.
The only way I eat like the back part of a pie is if it's slathered in whipped cream. Otherwise, I don't want it.
Not that top part. That top part that's like extra thick and kind of crispy. Like, I don't like that part. But like the bottom crust, like you remember when I made peach cobbler last time, how the bottom crust was like
squishy.
Yeah, like good. Like that's what I like. I like that part.
You redeemed yourself.
All right. Anyway,
probably should get back to Ballen.
Yeah, we should. But that was a nice little segue conversation. That wasn't a segue, just a conversation.
Not to the next Ballen video we're watching. Yes. It's way off.
Yes, it's a little different.
I'm just really excited for food.
Me too. All right, let's go ahead and intro this out and
okie dokie.
Set it up. On this episode of Watch Stuff With Us, even more Mr. Ballen.
Mr. Ballen.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Watch Stuff With Us. I'm JD.
I'm Katie.
And we are doing even more Mr. Ballen. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button.
Hit all the buttons.
All of the buttons. What's that?
Except the power button.
Didn't
Don't turn us off.
the Pussycat Dolls have a song called Buttons?
Loosen up my buttons, babe.
Okay, yeah. Pushing all my buttons, baby. Like and subscribe it, baby. Ooh. That was
nobody.
You liked that, didn't you?
People are going to take away their buttons. They're going to unlike.
I tried.
It was creative. You gave it your best shot.
I did. I saw that. Anyway, so without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get this started and watch another Mr. Ballen video. And hit the like button and subscribe button if you don't want me to sing ever again.
It was a good try. Just a little rough.
Nothing wrong with being a little rough.
The story is about a 3-year period where people were going missing at an alarming rate, and no one knew why. Eventually, it was discovered, and let me tell you, it is absolute nightmare fuel. But before we get into that story, if you're a fan of life and he was trying to get away, but whatever this thing was, this horrible... Before we get into that story, if you're a fan of these... sat up suddenly in his bed, breathing hard. The room was pitch black.
Right, we just
he was in, but he could feel he was sweating.
I feel like I can't though. I gotta go back. Okay, there we go.
The beast of Gevaudan.
Go Guzani then.
Gevaudan.
The beast of Zebops.
Zebops.
Gevaudan. Gevaudan.
Early on the morning of January 12, 1765, a 12-year-old boy named Jacques Portufis sat up suddenly in his bed, breathing hard. The room was pitch black that he was in, but he could feel he was sweating and his heart was racing. And he tried to shake his head to kind of wipe the nightmare he had just had from his mind, but he just couldn't do it. All he could think about was how in this nightmare, something had been chasing him and he had been running for his life and he was trying to get away. But whatever this thing was, this horrible beast that was following him, it just kept getting closer and closer and closer until it finally got him. And that's what woke him up. Jacques reached up and touched his face and he realized he was crying.
I have so many dreams like that too. Like,
right, what is this so special for? Like I wake up sweating from my nightmares all the time.
And like every time you have a nightmare, it seems like, not you, but like when a person has a nightmare, it seems like that moment where they grab you is always when you wake up. Like,
yeah,
I've never
or you fall,
right,
or
I've never had one that like, oh, I fell and like, oh, now I'm in pain. Like, ouch, ouch, ouch. Am I gonna wake up? I'm not sure.
Pretty sure that means you're dead. They always say if you like hit the ground, then when you're falling,
I think if you hit the
bottom,
I think if you hit the bottom or the ground, you aren't dead. I think if you hit the bottom and you are still dreaming after you hit the bottom, you're dead. Because that hitting the bottom should wake you up.
This is scary. Let's keep going. I don't want to dream anymore.
He quickly wiped the tears away because he didn't want any of his brothers or sisters to see that he was crying. Jacques was the oldest of 8 kids in his family, and all of them slept in the same small room on straw-filled mattresses inside of their family's little cottage in the southern French province of Gevaudan. And so, Jacques, he's looking around the bedroom to make sure none of his siblings had woken up and seen him in this state, and he was relieved to see that they were all still fast asleep. Everybody made fun of Jacques for being a scaredy cat, for being a coward. And to Jacques, this really hurt his feelings because on some level, he knew it was kind of true. In fact, just a couple of months earlier, he had lost in a physical fight with a much younger boy. And afterwards, Jacques had cried. And the whole town had seen this happen. And so afterward, all the kids began calling Jacques the wet chicken. And even Jacques' brothers and sisters began joining in and calling him the wet chicken and really making him feel totally ashamed. And it wasn't like the adults in...
It's one thing to be called a chicken, but like a wet chicken? Why is he the wet chicken?
I think they said, but you were too busy going.
Oh, maybe he like peed on himself or something. In a straw bed. Now you gotta get in a straw for the bed. Like, you know how itchy that is? That's why he was having those nightmares, because he was sleeping in a dang on straw bed.
He's doing the best he can.
Yeah,
it worked for Jesus.
It ain't worked for the people of Gevaudan or wherever.
Gevaudan. Sure. Can you stop it? Good Lord.
God, yeah.
My apologies.
Don't apologize for me.
My apologies.
You guys love this. This is what you tuned in for, this face.
Oh man, I'm gonna take a picture of that later.
Stepping up and protecting Jacques, because to them, Jacques was kind of like a liability. In this part of France, the winters were brutal. People died all the time in this village from the weather. And then the summers brought all these outbreaks of disease, which wiped out even more people in this village. And so by and large, where Jacques lived, it was kind of like the survival of the fittest. And many kids didn't live that long unless they were really hardy and tough, like their parents who had managed to survive for that long. But Jacques was just not like that. He was very gentle and peaceful, yet somehow he had survived. And Jacques really was not trying to become this kind of macho guy. Instead, he really wanted to be a priest like his uncle. But his uncle lived far away, and so it was tough to see his uncle all that often, to learn about, how to become a priest. But any time Jacques did get a chance to actually see his uncle, he would have a chance to read all these books and study alongside his uncle. And so for a little while, it was like Jacques was transported away from the hardships of his village to the life that in many ways he wished he had. A quiet, peaceful, very studious life. But deep down, Jacques felt like there was no chance he would ever actually escape this little village where he effectively was an outcast.
Young Strap.
Even though the sun had not risen yet, Jacques just sat on his bed and couldn't fall asleep again after waking up from this nightmare. And so just sitting there in the dark and the quiet, Jacques began to think about what he had to do later that day when the sun did come up. And like usual, Jacques started to feel afraid. And so Jacques eventually just laid down with his eyes open, and he laid there and on when one of his younger brothers, named Jean, who was 8 years old, rolled over and pushed him and said, "Hey, wet chicken, it's time to get up."
Hey, wet chicken. Hey, wet chicken. Hey, wet chicken.
I know I'm supposed to be taking this seriously, but my goodness.
Hey, wet chicken.
So far the story. I can't.
We got my man want to be a priest, sleeping on a straw bed.
That's not his fault though. The wet chicken part though.
Yeah.
Bullying is not okay, but calling someone a wet chicken is very creative.
What?
Wet
chicken. And his brother's name was Gene. Was that what? Yeah, Gene. Gene and Jock. Jock Gene.
Jack Jams.
Jack Jams. I was thinking that too.
Jack Jammies. Straw bed.
Oh, man.
Wet chicken. Okay, go back before we lose more people. Stop.
Don't you tune away. Look at this face.
I know. I'm gotta say though, those illustrations for this are not the best.
No, that's from his book.
I know everybody's face is like.
I know. Everybody got squiggle lips,
like Morty lips.
Morty lips.
People don't want to watch us. Keep going, honey.
It's our day with the sheep. Let's go. Jacques scowled at his younger brother and shoved him back, but not that hard, because Jacques never really shoved anybody that hard, no matter what they did to him. And then both boys hopped out of their bed, they wolfed down some bread and cheese, and then headed out the door. As soon as they were outside, Jacques noticed that the village was much quieter than it normally was. Yeah. But then again, these days, villagers did not leave their homes unless they absolutely had to. And so Jacques and Jean made their way away from their cottage down the dirt road to the pen.
Jacques and Jean with their cheese.
Jack and Jill went down the
hill. I'm Jacques, I'm Jean. I got some cheese in me. Let me go where we go, and now we're going to go have some fun. I'm a Jacques, I'm a Jean, I'm a Jacques, I'm a Jean, I'm a Jacques, I'm a Jean. Hold on. Let me be a priest.
I feel like people are getting our true personalities
I know.
on this stream show, and they won't be tuning back in.
Normally we kind of like professional, but nah, who cares?
I can't help it.
Where their family kept all of their sheep, and the boys opened up the gate and then used their staffs to kind of corral the sheep out of the gate back onto the road. And as the sheep kind of bleated and baaed and bumped into each other.
Bleating and baaing, blonde and bleating. Bleed. Bah. Like, come on, man.
Just keep going.
No, I'm stuck. I am stuck. Jacques Jean, bleating and baaing. Cheese and crackers.
Wet chicken.
Wet chicken.
Okay. Time to be serious. No laughing contest. Ready, set, go.
Each other. The boys worked hard to kind of organize them on the road, and then once the sheep understood which direction they were going, towards the forest, a very familiar walk for the sheep, they kind of fell into line and just began walking very casually.
Why does he look like that? That sheep on the right is just staring at me.
Oh God! Oh God!
I mean, if anything's nightmare fuel, it's these illustrations.
Oh, I got a headache now. Look at him.
Why you look at me like that?
And then the emo one on the back right, with his hair just swoop. He eat his hay like this.
I don't think they eat hay.
Sheep don't eat hay. No, what does she mean?
Grain.
Okay.
I think. If there's any farmers in the house, go ahead and drop a comment.
All our farmer subs, let us know.
Farmers only, please let me know.
Yes, all our farmer subs. Let us know what's going on. Okay.
I gotta be adults.
Why is he snarled? The one on the
I
right
don't
is just
know.
like,
These illustrations.
Do your lip thing. Okay. All right. Serious face. Serious contest. 3, 2, 1.
Casually, like they knew exactly where to go. And once the sheep had fallen into this kind of routine rhythm, Jacques and Jean fell in behind them and just walked quietly after them. And as the boys walked, they both constantly kept looking left and right and ahead of the sheep and behind them, constantly scanning for danger, because they knew something was out here. For months now, children all across this province in France, Gevaudan, had been going missing. They'd go off into fields or pastures, like when they're moving their family's livestock around, and the kids would just vanish. And then some.
So they just vanished doing this exact thing that Jacques and Jean are doing, with their bellies full of bread and crackers and cheese.
Maybe they end up on that island like the last guy in the other video.
Full circle. If you don't know what we're talking about, go back to our previous episode.
Maybe that's where he came from.
Maybe. That would explain it. I feel like, look at MrBallen. I feel like he's disappointed in us right now. Like, you guys are making fun of my story and my illustrations.
He didn't draw them, so it's not his fault. Sir.
Okay, I'm back.
Put some sensors over your face.
Sorry.
If they were found again, they'd be found totally mutilated, far from where they should have been. The attacks on these kids across Gevaudan had begun a year earlier on June 30th, 1764. On that day, a 14-year-old girl, who actually was the older sister of one of Jacques' friends, had disappeared and then been found again later that day, partially eaten in a field near her home after she had not come home with the family's cattle. Now, of course, this was very tragic, but to this point, there had not been...
We saw how they were looking.
They don't eat grain, they eat people.
Yep.
That one sheep in the front, he was definitely an eater.
Yep.
He looked like he's snacked on some humans before.
He had some fingers.
Carrots. Do they eat carrots? Maybe. No.
Yeah.
Attacks, so there was no pattern here, and so the assumption was she must have been attacked by a wolf, which did happen, and often 2 children, because kids at this time in France were often in charge of tending to their families' grazing animals, the way Jacques and Jean were going out with their sheep. You know, these kids were small, they couldn't really defend themselves, and if a wolf set onto them, there was very little.
If you know that it's not probably the safest choice, let your child just go out in the field, because they start disappearing.
Right, and getting eaten up. But you still gonna let Jacques and Jean, Jock Jams, go out there and with their bellies full of bread and cheese and wet chicken, just go out there, handle your business, go move these sheep.
They need to
like,
go
where
do
they
the
even
chores.
going? Where are the sheep going? Where are they herding them to? With their staff. Do they have a staff? You know, the little sheep hook thing? Shepherd's hook. That's what it's called, ain't it? Yep. See? Smart. I know things.
Teenagers were also found mutilated and dead in a field. And really, this was only the beginning. As summer turned to fall that year, more and more kids went missing and then turned up dead in fields, partially mutilated. And the more these attacks happened across southern France, the more people thought to themselves, this can't be a wolf. Number one, wolves don't go on extended human killing sprees. That's just not a thing. And number two, if it was a wolf, they would be eating more of their victims. They wouldn't just rip their body to shreds and then leave them. They would eat the meat. And so by this early January day in 1765, as Jacques and Jean were setting out for the day with their family's sheep, the death toll from whatever was killing these kids was now well into the dozens. People in France had begun calling whatever was killing these children the Beast of Gevaudan, and stories
That's what he does. Hide in the corners. He don't kill him. He scares him. I just go, blah!
Peekaboo. Oh, that's terrible. Again, these illustrations.
Well, that's a buck tooth too. Jeez. His eyes a little low too. Dang.
That tail.
Yeah. Is he giant? Is he a giant? Because like the people are little.
I think so.
Is that a dinosaur in the back?
My, what big hands he has.
That look like a dinosaur right there.
I thought he was a ferret, but he got a really long tail.
About this creature began popping up in newspapers all over France. People all across southern France began forming these huge hunting parties to go out into the forests and the wilds of Gevaudan to find this creature and kill it, but they would always come back empty-handed. And then every now and again, a hunter would be out.
He's still got his... Oh, MrBallen. He's morphing into the guy. Wait.
They would always come back empty-handed. And then every now and...
Okay. Still got the same face, though.
Yeah.
And he don't look that big. He just looks like a dog.
He looks like Mac,
right?
A dog. Like...
He looks like a dog. Just... They got a full-on musket pointed at his face. Dang.
Lady
blow his brains out. Gonna make you go kablooey.
That they had found and killed the beast of Gevaudan, but the attacks on these kids all across this province.
Jesus! Jesus! Save him!
Charlie!
Jacques getting his head bit off.
Pasquale.
Jacques Jams.
Little Mary.
Jacques Jams. Look at his. This thing has him by the head, by the skull. Like he could have picked like an easier part to carry him from. And then look at this. Like, does she look like is she really trying? She got one arm and an ear.
I think she realizes that no matter how she tries, he's a goner.
Yeah, she got an ear though. Like she was really gonna pull this beast off of this child.
She was just late
ear.
because she only came out of her house when she heard him screaming, and by that point,
Yep, it was too late.
Neglectful parents.
Yep, just gotta give it up. She said better him than me.
Yep.
Province just continued, so obviously that wolf was not it. And so as these attacks continued, all the fairs and festivals that normally would pop up all year long all across southern France, those all stopped because people were afraid to go out in fear of this creature. And then of course in villages like Jacques' village, people really stopped going out unless they had to, again because of the beast of Gevaudan. But Jacques and Jean,
the beast of Gevaudan.
This just makes me want to
relied on their livestock, and they needed their sheep to go out and graze. And so, on this day in January, Jacques and Jean had to go out because their sheep had to graze. Their family relied.
The sheep had to go out and graze. Okay, so now we got the answer. Sheep got to eat. Werewolf or whatever, got to eat too. So he's gonna. Which one is he gonna kill? Chicken, wet chicken, chicken little, chicken breast.
No.
Is Jock gonna survive?
Chicken thigh is gonna survive.
Chicken thigh. Okay.
On the sheep, livestock was their livelihood, and so this was a.
Oh, see, that's not an illustration. He's a cute sheep. I like sheep.
Sheep.
Bleh.
Do all sheep have ears like go to the side like that?
Yes.
That's what they do. Okay.
Yes. Do yours?
No, mine are fine. I'm not a sheep though.
Pretty sure yours are on the side.
They are on the side, but they aren't like angled up for whatever reason. I've never seen a sheep with ears angled up, but somehow this one looked weird to me.
We just saw him at the pumpkin patch.
And we just lost 2 viewers because I'm talking about sheep. So
gosh darn it, keep going.
Thing.
That's an AI sheep. That wasn't a real sheep.
If you're enjoying today's story, well, I have exciting news for you. My long-awaited first book is out right now. It's called MrBallen Presents Strange, Dark, and Mysterious, The Graphic Stories, and it's shipping worldwide right now. .com or anywhere else books are sold to get your copy today.
BallenStudios.com.
www.com.
As Jacques and Jean continued walking behind their herd of sheep down this dirt road towards the forest, the two boys eventually came to a stop and just turned around and looked back at their village. And they saw, walking on the road towards them, were 5 more kids, along with 2 additional herds of sheep that these 5 kids were in charge of. Ever since the Beast of Gevaudan had become a thing, Jacques and Jean had begun tending their sheep along with these 5 kids and their sheep. They figured the bigger their group was, the safer they were from this creature. As the 5 kids got closer to Jacques and Jean, Jacques realized that one of the kids that was with them this day was a tall, thin redhead. It was the same younger boy who had recently beaten Jacques up in front of the village, and he had cried and everyone had made fun of him. And so Jacques sees this kid coming, and immediately he can feel his face burning with embarrassment. And then the boy, he sees Jacques, and he immediately smirks and begins flapping his arms like chicken wings. But once these 5 kids and their sheep joined Jacques and Jean and their sheep, they all kind of just went quiet because none of them wanted to be out there. They were all scared of the Beast of Gevaudan, and the only reason together was, again, to be safe from this creature that was killing kids left and right. And so, in relative silence, all of the kids and their sheep just slowly walked together down this dirt path, and eventually they made it into the big forest where...
They made it?
They got to the forest.
Oh. Made it.
What do you think they said?
Mated.
Oh, no, good Lord, no.
Made it.
No, made it.
Where just beyond the forest was the pasture where these sheep would graze. And as the group actually entered into the trees and it became dark and more quiet and kind of eerie, Jean actually tugged on Jacques' shoulder and said, "Will you please tell a story?" Because Jean was scared too. The kids were all scared, and they figured, if Jacques just told a story, it would take their mind off of how tense this moment was.
You want to hear about my nightmares?
He actually smiled because this was something he loved to do. He was a great storyteller. It was like his one strength. When Jean had asked for the story, the kids and the sheep had actually made it to really the end of the forest path. And so by the time Jacques was about to start his story, all the sheep had made their way out of the forest onto this big open pasture right in the middle of the forest. And so as the sheep just kind of filtered out into this open area, Jacques stopped, and all the kids kind of came up right behind him, and Jacques started his story by pointing across the pasture to this bog that was right at the base of this big hill, and he said, "Do you see those big rocks in that bog over there? Well, you see the biggest rock? Well, that's not really a rock. It's actually a doorway, and if you move the rock underneath it, there's a portal to another world." And so as Jacques began telling this very creative story about this kingdom that existed underneath the bog, he sat down against a rock, kind of facing out towards the sheep, and all the other kids kind of filed in around him, taking seats, with Jean, his brother, sitting right behind him to his right. And Jacques, he was just really into the story to the point where he kind of forgot about what was happening with the sheep, and he wasn't scanning around for danger, and neither were any of the kids, including the redhead who had beaten Jacques up. He wanted to act like he wasn't into his story, but in reality, he totally was, and he was just as interested in what was going on with the magical kingdom below this rock. And finally, when Jacques got to the end of his story, where this evil giant that had been tormenting the kingdom under the bog had been tricked by an orphan to try to go through this magical portal into the...
Okay, does MrBallen really know all these details? Like, because I feel like he just be making stuff up. Like he was sitting directly to his right. Like, how do you know where he was sitting at? How you know where Jacques was at? How you know where Jean
They
was
probably
sitting?
also kept a diary.
Maybe that's cheating though, because if they had a diary and couldn't afford food, I guess you just write about it. Eat the paper. You got
fiber.
A ton of sheep too, but yeah, you starving and sleeping on hay.
Into their world, and the giant had gotten stuck in the doorway because he was so big, and he never tormented the kingdom again, and they lived happily ever after. When Jacques got to that point in the story and all the kids are totally locked in and not paying attention to anything else, two things happened in rapid succession. The first was, even though Jacques is telling the story and focusing on that, in the back of his mind, he registers hearing the sound of twigs breaking somewhere right behind him, almost like the sound of someone or something moving along the forest floor. And the second thing that happened was the red-headed kid who had beaten up Jacques
is now headless.
He gone.
He's sitting there, but he has no head. And there's a weird wolf sitting in the background. With
The wolf is in his seat now.
Right. And the wolf is listening to the story.
My, what big...
And then the wolf said...
What a big nose you have, redhead kid.
And then the wolf said, why do they call you wet chicken?
And then the wolf said, I like chicken.
I like chicken. I'll eat your face too.
Saying a word, just stood up and began sprinting towards the pasture. And for a moment, Jacques thought this kid, who was kind of like a bully, was doing this on purpose, to be rude to Jacques, to kind of run away at the climax of the story like he didn't care about it. But then Jacques realized that he smelled something terrible behind him. But when Jacques turned around to see what was making this smell, he saw that his brother, Jean, who had been sitting right behind him to his right, was now gone, and where he had been sitting was just his staff laying on the ground. And for a second, Jacques just couldn't process what his eyes were seeing. He didn't understand how his brother could have gotten away from him without him noticing. But before Jacques could do anything, all the kids around him that were still there began screaming and pointing up towards this hill that was right behind them. And so Jacques turned around, and to his horror, he saw there was this huge 12-foot tall creature that was covered in fur.
No, that looks better. Before they were doing like the hand-drawn stuff from the book, but this is obviously like AI hand-drawn stuff.
It just looks like a gorilla mixed with a bat.
Bat, wolf, gorilla, man thing.
Him ripped though.
Ripped.
Swole.
I lift, in
lift
between
children
in between
shape.
eating children's legs and arms, I like to go lift. You think the werewolf dates? Is there a she
24-hour fitness?
In 1794, they had 24-hour fitness for werewolves only.
.com.
Yes, .com.
Yikes.
Creature that was covered in fur. It looked like an oversized wolf, but it was standing on two legs, and its bones seemed like they were too big for its own skin, and it made it seem very angular and jagged. And as it kind of loped grotesquely up the hillside, Jacques realized it was carrying in its front arm Jean, who was screaming and kicking but could not get away from this creature. Jacques understood that this was the beast of Gevaudan, and it was going to go kill his brother. And immediately Jacques is thinking, you gotta run away, get to safety, get out of here. And all the kids around him, that's what they did. They took off running towards the pasture. They didn't care about Jean. They only cared about themselves. And so Jacques, he knows he needs to get away, save himself, but his legs just will not move. He is rooted to the spot because something inside of him told him he has to save his brother. It doesn't matter if everyone thinks he's a coward. That's his brother. He needs to do something. And so Jacques, he turns to the kids who are running away from him, and he screams at them to stop, come back. And the kids were so surprised to hear this strong, authoritative voice coming out of the wet chicken that they did stop and turned around to see what he wanted. And he said, get over here. I have...
Hey guys. I don't know if you've noticed, but Gene over there, he got tooken, and he's there's a werewolf.
No, you gotta do the puberty voice.
There's a werewolf, and the werewolf has him like a football, and if we don't go take our staffs and for these sheep, we won't be able to save them. And they call them wet chicken, but that was just a name for me, and I didn't mean any harm by it. And we just need to go save this guy, and I'm not gonna do it alone. So you can come with me, or you don't. You could run, but
that's good.
I'm over here. That's good one. That was a good one.
That was pretty good.
That was a good one.
It was decent.
Yeah, what do you think?
6 stars.
6. It's usually 4 or 5. I got a 6 star.
Yeah.
Okay, I feel special. Thanks.
Plan. And so the kids, with the exception of the redhead who had run off by himself, they came back to Jacques, and Jacques began telling them his plan to save Jean. And the kids, again, were so taken with how Jacques was really owning this moment and being a leader that they all said, okay, let's do this.
Okay, guys. So here's my plan. Redhead ran over there. So
we're gonna let the wolf get him first.
We're gonna say Wolfie, Wolfie. Red is over there. Go get him first. And then,
Lil Red Wolf.
Then he's gonna drop Gene, and then after he drops Gene, then we're gonna go pick up Gene, and then we're gonna run ourselves. He kind of, I don't know why his cadence kind of sounds like a mix between like a
right on 5, guys. 1, 2,
5.
5, yeah.
Let's go.
As opposed
Team.
to this. No fist pump though.
Team.
Just, yeah.
It's like a mix between Barack Obama and Beavis from Beavis and Butthead right now. I don't know why.
Hit play, baby.
Team.
Hit play.
Yeah.
Shut your face. Shut your face off.
Yeah.
Hit play.
Okay.
I'll hit play.
So after this very quick planning meeting, all the kids turned running up the hillside towards the beast of Gevaudan with Jacques in the front with his staff out. And the kids gained on...
Hey. Sometimes you just gotta let the staff out. And when that staff is out, that werewolf's gonna run.
I mean, he tried to be a man, so.
Yep. Staff out.
Let's go. Staff's out, guys.
Staff out. I'm a staff out. Okay. Man.
Mm-hmm.
I heard her running head first into a problem, but
beast really quickly, and the creature clearly noticed and kept turning around and kept looking at these kids getting closer and closer, but the beast did not seem interested in any of them. It just wanted Gene, and in fact it moved, but the beast did not seem interested in any of them. It just wanted Gene, and in fact it moved Gene from its arm up into its mouth, and then the creature began kind of using the trees to pull itself fast.
Where's that staff? Okay,
that's how Edward did it.
This werewolf, like, is it a monkey now? Like,
no, he's just got all the
powers.
Is he
swinging from the trees? Or he's just running through the trees?
He's going right through them.
I guess so. But Gene needs to get his staff out and whip him with it. Sometimes you just gotta whip him with it. Flog him with the staff.
Honey, push play.
Faster and faster away from the kids. But Jacques, he just kept going faster and faster and pushing himself to get closer and closer. And as he did, it motivated the other kids to follow along and push it and gain on this creature. And finally, they got close enough to this beast that Jacques yelled out to the kids, "Now!" And they all fanned out around it and began smashing this beast with their staffs they used to shepherd their...
So they all had their staff out.
Honey, keep going.
They had their staff out, and they said, "We gonna flog them with this staff."
None of their blows.
No, we're not here to play. We need to talk about this staff beating,
honey.
Because sometimes you got to use your staff for a beating.
We're never gonna get through this video.
Sure, we're doing any real damage.
Sometimes when the staff is right, you gotta.
Look, our viewer came back.
They came. Okay. Hey, thanks for coming back. I'm gonna go through with the rest of the video. I'm gonna let you finish. In the words of Kanye, I'm gonna let you finish.
We don't need to discuss him.
Oh, we lost the viewer again. He left.
That's because you won't shut up.
Damage, and the creature did not really seem fazed that the kids were now attacking it, but they were kind of able with their strikes to this creature to direct it and get it to kind of turn in the direction that Jacques had told them to make the creature go. And so the kids continued to beat and poke and corral this creature, and every time they hit it, the beast would kind of flail out with one of its arms, but it never really did anything because, again, it's really focused obviously on taking Gene. But eventually, Jacques' plan worked. He had corralled the creature to the top of the hillside, right over where that bog was, where those rocks in the middle were part of the story that Jacques had told about how there was this portal to another world. And once this creature was positioned where Jacques wanted it, he again yelled to the kids to do the next phase of their plan. And all the kids kind of fanned out to the top of the hill, and with their staffs, they beat and poked this creature down the hill into the bog. And as they did this, Jacques kept looking to see if Jean was alive, because earlier he had been screaming and kicking, but now there was blood all over his brother, and he was limp in the creature's mouth, and he wasn't making any sound. But Jacques didn't care. He wanted to get his brother back.
Sir,
and so finally,
you know
Jacques
what?
stepped
Ballen
forward from the
messaged
group
us and be
and
like,
wound
"Please
up
don't
and he
watch my
smashed
videos
the beast
anymore
as
and
hard as he
comment on them."
could. Hard enough that the beast actually kind of stumbled forward into the actual marshy bog. And what Jacques knew about this bog and why he had come up with that particular story about there being a gateway to another world is weeks earlier, he had actually accidentally stepped into this bog and saw it was really deep. And he had been lucky enough that he had grabbed a rock and kind of pulled himself out, because if he hadn't, the bog kind of functioned like quicksand. You could get stuck in the bog and never get out again. And this
I've been stuck in the bog with my staff before, and when you get stuck in don't hit play yet.
When I came down,
when you get stuck in the bog, ain't no way to get out.
my apologies, truly.
kind of functioned like quicksand. You could get stuck in the bog and never get out again. And this is what happened to the beast of Gevaudan. It went feet first into the one spot of the bog that Jacques had all the kids corral it to, that was the deepest and most dangerous part. And as soon as the beast stepped into it, it sunk down to its waist. And immediately the beast reached out with its huge muscular arms and tried to pull itself out of the bog, but it couldn't. It was stuck. And so in its panic, it let go of Jean from its mouth, and it actually turned around and it looked at Jacques and the other kids. And when it did, Jacques almost lost his nerve, because when he saw this thing face to face up close, he saw this was not a wolf's face. This was almost like a human face. Its eyes were making distinct eye contact with Jacques, and it was furious. It was like the beast understood that Jacques had just trapped it. He had tricked the beast into walking into this bog, and it wanted to kill Jacques. And for a moment, Jacques was totally entranced by this creature's eyes. It just struck him that this looks human. It looks intelligent. You know, what is this thing? And while Jacques was kind of in this daze, the creature reached forward and slashed his stomach wide open, and Jacques fell backwards on the ground, but luckily he was far enough away from the beast that he couldn't be pulled back in. And in this kind of frantic moment, one of the other kids saw an opportunity and ran forward, grabbed Jean, who was laying on the surface of the bog, and he pulled him away from the beast. And the beast whipped around. He tried to grab Jean, but he couldn't. And so all of a sudden, all these kids were safely away from the beast of Gevaudan, who was totally trapped. And so at this point, the other kids who were not hurt, they scooped up Jacques and they scooped up Jean, and they began running away from the bog across the pasture back towards the village, leaving the beast where it was. And as they ran, they heard it bellowing out and roaring and trying to pull itself out, but it still just remained in the bog. And finally, as they got back to that dirt path that led back to the village, they saw there was a group of armed villagers running towards them, because it would turn out the redhead who had ran off, he had told the village, and they were coming out to help the kids. And
help! The beast of Gevaudan is down there.
They got wet chicken.
they got wet chicken.
Wet chicken's over there with his staff out.
He carrying them like a football. Everybody got the staffs out, and they beating the chicken. Or the where? No.
Armed villagers met with the kids. They told them where the beast was, stuck in that bog, and the villagers took off to go kill the beast. And then the kids, along with Jacques and Jean, they went into the village. They were put into a home and put on beds, by which point the village doctor had come over and began treating both of them. Jean was alive, but just barely. He had lost a lot of blood, and the beast had grabbed onto his scalp and really crushed his skull, but he would ultimately survive. As for Jacques, it was a very painful wound that he had sustained on his stomach, but none of his internal organs had been damaged, and so he would also survive as well. As for the armed villagers, even though they very quickly got out to that bog where the beast was, when they got there, the beast was gone. And the beast of Gevaudan would continue to kill people for another 2 years until June 19th.
Hold on.
They just said he was
got
gone.
The plan. They got the plan for this beast of Gevaudan, and they trapped him, and he mysteriously got away, and he's still out there killing people. If I had survived a meeting with this beast, that beast was gonna have to die the next time I saw it, or how's somebody gonna be stupid enough to let this happen again?
I don't know how he got out. They just said they got him in there.
I know he was in
He's
there.
stuck.
He looked at him and he was the beast eyes,
Yeah.
and was up to his waist and chest in the bog, into the thick of it, and
into the thick of it.
and he somehow got out of that. They turned their back, and the mob was coming, and he turned it back, and he just disappeared.
Well, at least those 5 children from the village were saved, because next week there are more.
Yeah, I guess so. Seattle Ryan, I see your comment. I'll talk about it in a second.
In 1767, when a hunter happened to encounter it in the middle of a forest, and he shot and killed it. And by that point, over 100 people had been murdered by this creature. The hunter would drag the carcass of the beast back into his village, and a doctor would perform an autopsy, but the doctor was unable to identify what kind of animal it was. It did kind of look like a wolf,
a werewolf,
but its body was just so misshapen, and its bones were too big, and it clearly walked on 2 legs, not on all 4s, and so there was never any definitive information about what this even was and how this even happened. But when they opened up its stomach, they did find human body parts. Jacques was one of the only people to have ever survived an encounter with the beast of Gevaudan. And so he was celebrated all across France. And he quickly went from being the wet chicken to the little hero. And his story would reach as far away as Boston, Massachusetts. And in fact, Jacques' story was so well publicized that it eventually reached King Louis XV, and he was so moved by it that he invited Jacques to come meet him, and after meeting Jacques, he loved him and offered to pay for his entire education. And so Jacques would get to finally leave this little village where he never quite fit in, and he would move to northern France and enroll in a prestigious school there, and he would spend his days reading and writing just like he had always hoped for.
All right, so there's another MrBallen video. I really enjoyed that one. I feel like my version of the story and the story that I heard might be different from the story that MrBallen was telling, but I like my story a whole lot better. Whose story do you like? Do you like my version with the staffs and the chickens and them being wet in the bog and all that stuff, or do you like MrBallen's version? Let me know in the comments below. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, hit that notification bell so that you're notified each and every time we go live, because who would want to miss out on stuff like this? I'm JD, and she left.
It's me, Katie.
Peace.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
So yeah, that was fun. That was an interesting one.
I couldn't with those videos. Like, my gosh, the illustrations and the story were hilarious.
Seattle Ryan, what is up? What is up? What is up?
Well, he's busy tonight.
Yeah, long time no see. It's been a little while, but I'm busy tonight. Gonna go watch Gladiator 2 soon. Wanted to stop in and give a thumbs up and say hi. Man, much love. Much love. We appreciate you, man. We appreciate you. And just for that,
I don't have friends. I got family.
You are family, sir. So we appreciate you for stopping by.
Let us know how the movie is.
Exactly. Let us know how that movie is. If it's worth it, maybe we'll go check it out and then we'll do a review and breakdown or something of it. So yeah, let us know. Yeah, otherwise, I think, yeah, we might as well throw this music on, because this music means it's time to shut the stream down. We're going to go get some rest because we've been up for a while. And, you know, streaming for an hour and 44 minutes is very long, even though we've done 4-hour streams before. At least I have. But yeah, thank you so much for checking out our episode tonight. Like, we had a solid group of people who didn't really want to comment a lot, but obviously have been watching the whole time. Like, I always find it interesting when you get people who will like sit and watch you the entire time while you're live, knowing that they can comment, but they decide to stay quiet. So as my friend Dave calls it, ninja watching.
Yep.
So I appreciate all the ninja watchers that we got to. But on your way out right now, if you have not hit that like button and haven't hit that subscribe button, please do it. We are on our drive to 250 subs. We are 20 away. And you can make that happen right now because we get more than 20 people to watch each of these episodes. So if you are watching, you should be subscribing. Even if you don't like us, you should subscribe just because you want to support. Look at that face. Exactly. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, because otherwise she's going to be stuck like that with the prayer hands and everything. So on that note, I will be back on Sunday streaming a preview of Dune Prophecy episode 2. And then we'll be doing a full watch party for that. So if you are interested in that show, or even if you aren't, you should come and hang out. It's always a party when we are on. So go ahead, like I said, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and we will see you next time we drop a live or do a video.
Don't be a wet chicken.
Don't be a wet chicken, please.
Keep staff in.
Tuck your staff in. Watch out for werewolves. And don't get carried like a football.
And don't be an idiot and get yourself abandoned on an island so that you have to resort to the desperation that poor man did.
Yeah. On that note, peace.